Welcome to the Argosy Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Marin, and today we have as our guest Thiago Maior from EZOps Cloud. Welcome, Thiago.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
You're very welcome. It's great having you. So you spent years in cloud and DevOps delivery, where reoccurring client pain points convinced you the industry needed more traditional consulting, or what was it that convinced you that it needed more consulting?
So I started basically 10 years ago, right? And I think back then, especially here in the US, was a high demand for smaller companies to not only smaller, bigger, it's also, to have people working on their projects. I think local Americans was really focused on bigger companies. I think those bigger companies were taking most of the senior engineers available in the market. So I think people would need somebody that could work part-time, but I think 10 years ago, they didn't need somebody highly technical, right? A senior guy that were really willing to work for them, right? So that's why I think I am originally from Brazil, and remote workers were started to get really up at that, right? So those companies were looking for a lot of senior guys, and I was one of those. But the first company hired me, and I had a lot of demand after that, you know,
Yeah.
and I knew that Brazilians could do the same thing. So I just trained a little some folks that worked with me before to understand how to work remotely and understand how to provide the work, that kind of senior work, right, remotely for Americans. But it's been 10 years, right? So I think now the demand is still there. I think not as much as 10 years ago, to be honest, but I think the need of somebody really experienced, the need of somebody that take responsibility, right? The need of somebody that understand what needs to be done, I think still very important. There are so many technology available, especially now with AI, right? That it's really hard to find an engineer that actually understand what it's doing. Again, they suffer more. And even when you do find it, sometimes you find somebody that have one of two experience because, they might have worked with so many companies, and consulting companies are able to work in multiple companies, right? They have more feedback. They have more collaboration between them. And I think all those experience gets to be available for the client that is higher ends, for instance.
Gotcha. So when you say agentic AI cloud engineer, you're talking about the engineers you train, but when you say about that term agentic cloud engineer, what does that mean in practical terms, and how is it different than a chatbot layered into DevOps?
Sure. So I think that what we are trying to do with the concept of agentic AI DevOps engineer is how we can make it available, right? How we can make an AI chatbot behave as a DevOps engineer, right? So what is the biggest problem with AI, especially when you use an AI agent to actually review code, debug infrastructure, right? Debug logs and everything. The biggest problem is that you need to get context, right? So a DevOps engineer needs to understand the whole stack of a client. They need to understand what the client have, how are they using his stack, right? Is it on AWS? Is that a Kubernetes? How many pods they have? So this knowledge is needed to the AI to get to any conclusion, especially even if that client had problems in the past. How many developers they have? They did any deployment lately. So there are so many information besides the technical aspect that a DevOps engineer needs to work. So what we have been working a lot is to build an agentic engineer, DevOps engineer that is able to capture that context. I is able to understand exactly what the client needs and understand exactly where they need to look to help the clients to avoid the problem, to debug an existing problem, help even developers, right? So I have a lot of clients that hire developers and they need support in pipelines, need support in how to deploy a new feature. Sometimes even information about the stack that they are actually working on. And I think our work is to get our experience, get, all those 10 years of experience and put it on an agent AI that could really help companies, right? Make
Yeah.
them even maybe not needing a senior DevOps engineer for them, right? So we do have simpler projects, but most of all, the fact that an agent AI 24/7 available. So the work to debug something, to see what is going on, to see even if the problem exists or not, sometimes there's no problem, right?
Mhm.
That is something an agent AI can do today, and that's what we are doing, right? They can see what they understand the problem, and we keep getting a lot of great results from it, and I do think that this is the future, right? Having especially consulting firms be able to create agents, train agents, and give agents enough information so they can do part of the work, right?
Thanks for. Mhm.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
thanks for. Yeah, it is. Thanks for that context because it is. Understand that context does help us understand agentic AI and the difference between just an LLM, right? So, what made you decide to build Ace Dev instead of continuing to scale EasyOps purely as a services business? And maybe even taking a step back before you answer that, what is Ace Dev? Can you give us a little bit of a definition?
Ace Dev, it's part of the EZOps Cloud now, right? So Ace Dev is an agent AI that is able to do a lot of the work that we do as consultants, as DevOps engineer. Right? Ace was created to be available when we are not available. Ace was created to do the first level support initially, but it has grown to a lot of different areas, right? So initially, when we started 2 years ago, was to be a 24/7 support. That was the goal. I do think now with how AI is doing, how the models are behaving, how the infrastructure behind agents are being developed, I do think that ACE is way more. It's much more than just support agent. It is able to develop, is able to build infrastructure, and is able to build everything. And I do think that that is going to be the future of IT, having a lot of agents doing the actual work and guiding those agents to do the right thing, to do the right process, right? So we will still need engineers to understand how to develop software, how to build infrastructures, and how to do it all. So it's like with these engineers, they have superpowers. They can multiply themselves and they can perform a really, really better work that we did in the past. So that's the idea.
Okay. Thanks for that background. So, what problem hurts clients the most that you see? Is it the cloud costs? Is it deployment speed, security, or is it a shortage of cloud engineer talent?
Yeah, I think in the end is especially smaller companies, small to medium companies, I think is a lack of talent, but not only talent by themselves, but also, professionalism, you know. And that's was when I started the company, that's what I remember that I used to that what motivated me because I saw so many people that got hired, but they were not no professional enough. So you don't need only talent, but you need also professional. And I think that's what's most difficult for companies, because engineering hours are so expensive for them, right? You hit the pretty bad, right? I think a lot of clients they want to put that budget on marketing, right, instead of engineering. So not only having the budget for the people that they need to hire, but hire people that are highly professional, hire people that they are actually working on what needs to be done. What is the biggest. That's really hard. On our case, on DevOps, right? So you have to take full responsibility, be available at times that you don't want to be available, right? So that is the hardest part for them. And I think that's where AI will help a lot, especially on how much companies are dependent on those engineers, right? So
Mhm.
companies, if they lose an engineer, even they might have a lot of problems, right? So
Mhm.
think they can reduce that risk a little bit with AI, make sure everything's documented, and make sure the AI can help, even if they have to replace engineers, that could be, really easy. But I do think that engineering is the hardest part for the company.
Gotcha. And thanks for giving us a little bit of background there on soft skills like professionalism. That was a good take. So, where do modern cloud teams still lose the most time, even after adopting DevOps tools and automation?
I do think that DevOps and cloud came to focus engineering hours in development. So I think that they lose a lot of time when development needs to be synchronized with the infrastructure, right? With the cloud features. And sometimes we do see where DevOps and cloud seems that, especially if you do a good job, you don't have enough work to continuously improving the infrastructure because eventually you hit a block where you don't have more enough to do because you have such a stable environment, right? And with that stable environment, your engineering hours are not there. And without engineering, what are you gonna do, right? So, and you still need that person to be available, right? That's pretty complicated. but eventually you just reduce that hours, right? And you even invest on software development, but eventually you grow your application, but you don't evolve your infrastructure, right? And that's the problems when they start to happen. And that's when you need some kind of consulting support even, right? So I think
Mhm.
that that's lack of sync between development and infrastructure is where the problems happens.
Okay, very interesting, very insightful. Thank you. So, what parts of cloud operations are ready for AI-driven autonomy today, and what parts are still they require? What parts still require strong human oversight?
Good question, but I do think that the whole operation, I think, is ready. Monitoring, debugging any kind of issues in the infrastructure is ready. Even kind of a bug fix, but not exactly the execution is not ready, right? So any kind of read-only mode from software development to infrastructure, to logs, to cloud, cost reviews, even security reviews, right? And recommendations, that's fully ready, right? We have dozens of clients using what we call the observability mode, right? All observable AI is ready. What is not ready, and we are trying to really get to that. And I think we are really, really ahead is the fact that how you can make AI build, right? So we have AI supporting bugs. Bugs, we are pretty good even for the observability mode. I think we're good, but I think still build from scratch without humans, right? Even like you can have a human in the loop, like have the AI build by themselves and have a human review the PR, right? We are at that point, but I don't see a lot of people doing that, right? So I think building is something that is still struggling a little bit, but I think we already getting there, but eventually a lot of companies are going to get there. And then that's when we're going to see a real power of, AI because observability is still a tool, right? So you could still have somebody looking at that. But when the AI is able to build infrastructures, is able to build new features, that's when, really IT is going to be impact on the whole AI.
And to drill down on that a little further, how do you define the trust boundary for AI and cloud operations? What should it be allowed to do, and then where should AI stop for approval?
That is pretty hard to explain, but it's because it also depends on the client, right? So there are clients that the infrastructure can recover from most things. So they are more willing to try it out. So we have a good strategy where, as a DevOps team, also we do the infrastructure as a code, right? So anything, not only infrastructure, but also software development, right? So any software development needs to go through a PR and be reviewed by somebody. Any infrastructure gens can also have a PR and be reviewed by somebody, right? So if you are able to create an AI that can create a PR, create code and push code just like a developer, and that's when I think where I see the humans guiding the AI, right? So AI needs to behave just like a developer, just like an engineer, right? And just like an engineer needs to be the code review, just like an engineer, it should have any infrastructure change be code review with Terraform or something like that, right? So if you are able to do that, I think you can have the AI, go all the way. If you have the security in place, of course, so you have a full read mode AI, you have a Hey AI with limits, you have guardrails with the AI. And if you follow the Git flow process where everything the AI is actually changing that matters is being reviewed, is being tested, even by other agents, but if the process of a software engineer is being done, even by AI, I think
Mhm.
is the way to go, you know? And I think we are heading that way, especially us with this.
That that's very insightful as far as the direction and the kind of the next few years for AI, right? And DevOps. So what's the biggest bottleneck of growth for your business right now for EasyOps? Is it market education, customer trust, hiring? You talked about talent, a lack of talent. We talked about educating the clients, right? Or is it something else?
Yeah. So I would say it is not that much of talent. So we are Easy Ops. Were able to create like a really good pool of talent over the last 10 years, a really good training process. But I think we do hit a limit on the amount of people, right? So when you get to 100 people, you start to get a little worried about on how to manage. And, we are a highly technical team. So we still want a lot of collaboration with team people. Talent, because, eventually, especially nowadays, right? The more people you have, the more you have to sell. So I think there is a problem with consulting firms that you have to keep in order to grow. You have to sell. It's not the same amount. Right? I don't have to sell. If I have double people, I don't have to sell double. I have to have 3, 4, 5 times, right? Because I have to have projects for everyone. And eventually you have to invest 5 times more in marketing. That is pretty expensive, especially for a self-funded company like us, right? If we have an outside investment, that's a whole nother thing. But for a self-funded company, usually I say like 100 people is the limit, right? It's really hard to grow out of that with no funding. And that is good, right? Because with funding, things change even for clients, right? Without any funding, man, we still are in control. We still protect our brand. We still make sure the clients are really satisfied because generate money is not what counts for us, right? It's providing really good service, keeping our name, with the clients and have clients come back. So I would say that sometimes marketing is, the hardest part, getting new clients, onboarding new clients and manage that clients the way that we want to manage all those clients, really good. I think that's a limitation of growth. Although I think for any consulting company at my size, it's pretty successful already. If you want to grow more, I think you need to go to that investment path.
Does growth, because you said marketing there, does growth also mean you could grow with your until you get investment by actually getting better clients? Is that a way to grow before you bring on investors?
I do think, because we were actually talking about this internally, right? Because getting better clients, it's hard to say that because we get a really good clients because we are structured to get that kind of clients, right? And then when you say, oh, we're gonna get better clients, and bigger clients, but then you're gonna have to structure yourself differently, right? That's what I'm saying. So changing the clients, the type of clients that you're used to work is pretty hard. And that's when I say you have to restructure yourself and maybe you're gonna need to have investments. Quick example, right? You need bigger clients, so you need more sales executive, right? Senior sales executive, because it needs to get those clients in a meeting and talk to them and go through this whole process. So I think that in order to really grow past 100, start to need a lot of partnerships, even, maybe VCs contacts and everything that will make you get different clients, in my opinion, but again, to self-funding to keep the control so you can provide better clients. In our case, we already structured to get the clients that we have and we're pretty happy with that.
Right. Here's something that's maybe a related question. What is growth? When does the growth get harder for EZOps? Is it generating demand? I think you said something about marketing, or is it closing enterprise buyers?
Yes, I think it's hard to say, but I would say this: AI is make everyone harder to grow right now because right now the only thing that happened with AI is being able to deliver faster. That's the only thing that happened because we do expect that demand is going to grow for consulting firms because there are going to be more projects in the market, right? Because they are going to be built with AI, right? But that haven't happened now before right now. So I think that what happens right now is that we as a company are delivering really faster and with less problems because every developer from our team, they have AI, they even have ACE to support them to deliver. So they deliver fast and we sell ours, right? We sell projects.
Okay.
They are quicker, they are faster. So people are happy, but the work is done. So it's really hard to grow like that, right? And now we have ACE and we redirect the whole part of the team to develop ACE, right? So I think that's the harder part. Besides that, the hardest part to grow, especially for a nearshore team like us, is keeping adding value to the brand, increasing rates, right? And just like you said, maybe getting enterprise clients, because eventually you have to structure yourself for bigger rates. You have to go after different clients, and then you're not ready for that, right? So your strategy is generate more demand on the clients that you have. But right now, the problem is that AI is actually reducing your demand, right? Because you're delivering faster, right? So for instance, I did think we have been growing a lot from the past 2 years, but the number of hours might be, 20% more than what we had 2 years ago. Why? Because we're delivering faster, right?
Okay. Gotcha.
I think AI it's impacting, but we are really excited because not because of ACE open a new door for us, a new opportunity. We are also doing AI projects, to be honest, that actually uh, are the new development. New development is new, are the new AI projects. But I do think that later this year, whole new demand of even that, especially DevOps engineer to support AI projects, right? To support projects that were built with AI and there is nobody that really understand what AI did, think that
Right.
that's going to happen sometime this year or next year.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to my next question. In our initial conversation, you mentioned running into those type of projects where a customer wants you to untangle something that AI built for them. So what kind of buyer understands your value first, the easy ops value fastest, and which buyer takes the most education? It sounds like sometimes you get buyers who want to reduce hours because they've seen how quickly AI can do it, but AI has kind of at times made a mess of a situation, right?
Yes. Pretty funny because 10 years ago, which one that value us the most, right? Not 10, but 5 years ago, right? Was the ones that are actually develop a product and they have problems, right? So they develop a product with, I don't know, remote SIM from India, from any place in the world, and the product is having problems because they can't scale the project, right? So a lot of problems are happening. It's slow, it's having downtime, right? Having everything. Now it's the same, right? An AI guy just built with AI, they trying to launch the product and they have problems. Right. I got a really good feedback the other day for a client. Look, to be honest, I didn't told you that, but I did the project with AI, and then you guys came in, put some developers with us, and it did really improve. And now I don't want to go back to building with AI because eventually I had so many problems that I don't want to go through that again. So same thing. So if the guy already had problems, they're gonna, and that's the AI talking. Anyone that builds from with AI and really put in production, they're gonna go through that. That's what I'm saying about, in a few months or next year, we're gonna have a lot of demand from this kind of situation, right? They have to build with AI. They have to understand the complexity of putting something like that in production and the challenges of after you put in production, having somebody to fix that is a lot of work, right? It's kind of the humans are gonna be more evaluated like later that this year, right? So funny enough, it's the same thing from a few years ago, same process.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So are you talked about that kind of diving a little bit further there? Are the biggest competitors you guys face now other services firms? Or are they internal IT teams who are using platforms like AI co-pilots?
Yes, I think we are getting into, I'm hearing a lot of companies that the engineers, they're just trying to do themselves, right? So I think I talked to a lot of friends that are working with big firms in DevOps, a lot of colleagues, and here's what they're telling me. They are trying to do themselves, right? Because think the engineers working, right? They have the full-time salary, they have the full-time role, and they are using AI. So they have 3 hours, they have available hours, and they can, just like me, they are also seeing their hours being dropped. They are also being seeing the company like, I don't have enough demand to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, right? So I think they might be getting pressure to deliver more, to add more value. So what I think where they're spending those hours, they are spending those hours in trying to build an agent to try to automate process for the companies, right? They are trying to kind of save their jobs, they are trying to add more value. So, at some point, they think that they might think that layoffs are going to happen. Layoffs are going to happen and they might be replaced. So they want to show, no, don't replace me. I can build those things for you. Right. And a lot of companies I'm talking about, they just said, Thiago, let's talk in 2 months. Let's talk in 3 months. Because my team said they can do it. They can create those agents.
Right.
That might be true even for some situations, right? But I do think what most consulting companies offer have that strategic kind of view, right? different from an engineer that is working with one company, right? So we have a better view of the companies, what exactly they need, and we are able to focus, right? Even an engineer that is trying to build an AI, they are struggling with building that and doing their normal work, right? Their
Yeah.
day-to-day work. So and also we have been doing that for the past 2 years with a team, almost 10 people fully dedicated, right? We have failed a lot over that time. And I do think they're gonna fail and they might not have enough information or enough time to actually be able to build something that can go in production, right? So I think that's where we are right now up to this year. Because last year were different. Last year, companies were not allowed even to work on those AI agents, but now they are convinced
Yeah.
they need to work, they need to do. And I think all the companies are trying to use the hours that they have to maybe do something internally and see what happens.
Like you said, we'll see in a few months, right?
We'll
Like your
see.
clients are saying. Yeah.
Yes.
So with hyperscalers adding more AI into their platforms, how do you differentiate with EasyOps and AceDev?
So good point, right? How is EasyOps and is that different themselves or I'm sorry, or with other companies?
No, how are you? Because you see the hyperscalers adding AI, like the Google, the Azure, they're adding more AI right into their platforms.
Okay.
How do you differentiate EasyOps and AceDev from the hyperscalers?
The hyperscalers from the cloud, right? So that the clouds are offering, right? If I hard question, right? But I think every consulting firm, I think we are adding the human experience, the human in the loop, right? So all of that is just technology, right? Technology was never what we differentiate ourselves. So our difference is the human process, the professionalism, right?
Mhm.
Experience in everything. And that's, for instance, why AWS never offered consulting firms, why AWS offer partnerships, right? Because they need the people, they need the professionals, they need the
Mhm.
human working for us, the experience and what to do, right? So they're gonna keep needing them, right?
Mhm.
Really, really experienced engineers to help those companies. So I think that as long as consulting firms understand that they are the humans in the process, right? The experienced people to help those companies, I think every consulting firm should be good.
So thanks for sharing that detail. So, what do most founders and CTOs still misunderstand about DevOps when they say, in particular, when they want to move faster?
Yeah, I think we talk about that, right? So the fact that DevOps is a work that is now it's hourly based, right? So it's just build and that's it. I think the fact that they understand that is a continual work, making sure having somebody that's truly responsible for the environment and needs to be senior enough to support them. Right. And need to have experience, right? So if one person cannot support and have this responsibility on their shoulders because they're just one, I think that's where, as long as they keep treating DevOps and cloud support as software development, and it is hours featured deliverables, I think, they're going to have a problem. But I don't know. They have to evolve from that, I think.
Yeah. Well, thanks for providing that background. That just the build is not enough, right? There's a responsibility of caring and feeding it. So yeah, exactly. So you've written about metrics being accurate but misleading. Which engineering metrics do leaders overvalue, and what should they pay more attention to instead?
Hard to say. Metrics is pretty hard, right? So especially if you think of how do you measure professionalism, right? So how would you measure the DevOps engineer with numbers? Because, I usually say that the better a DevOps engineer is, the less work he has, right? Because environment stable. They don't have to work that much because they did a good job. I think it is a hard thing to measure for in our point of view because eventually they have to measure responsibility and professionalism. Even if they have problems, right? Downtime might be a good number, but eventually downtime might not be their responsibility, their fault, right? And as long
Mhm.
as professionalism be able to fix so they don't keep repeating the same problem, they are good professionals, right? So it's pretty hard to put numbers on that.
Thanks for the explanation. With that, from your conversations with CTOs and engineering leaders, what patterns keep showing up when companies try to scale cloud operations or outsource DevOps? Is there a certain pattern there with the companies?
I think that even after so many years of DevOps, I think that a lot of understanding exactly what DevOps is, still treating as a software development process, still treating as a projects. as a project level, it is a pattern. So I think it is the same thing. It's like I was actually talking to a really big VC the other day, and I think what they're saying that just also because of AI and everything, we're gonna get to a point that DevOps engineers, cloud engineers, and AI engineers gonna be hired just for compliance, right? Just for responsibility's sake. At some
Yeah.
point, say you don't have enough hours with us, but it's gonna be your responsibility. It's just like I don't know if you have here, but usually in Brazil, a pharmacy have one doctor that is responsible for that pharmacy, even if the guy is not there 100% of the time. So I do think that over time we're gonna have responsive, needed, compliant engineers, that needs to take full responsibility, understand what they have there. Besides, having full time people and having them work 40 hours a week.
Well, that's an interesting thing that I haven't, that's new to me as far as that compliance engineer, but it makes sense. Somebody has to be, to know what a AI has built and how it's compliant or not compliant and kind of keep track of things, right? To make sure they're updated.
Yeah, and being responsible, understand exactly what they are dealing with when
Hmm.
something breaks or some change needs to do, right? They are not gonna be able to do it itself. It's possible that they can do, but still, you need somebody, some human that understand everything that is there and understand that the AI is doing a good work or not.
Especially when you have regulations, if it's maybe it's the medical industry, as you mentioned, pharmaceutical in Brazil, and the regulations that companies face here in the United States in different industries. That's important. So, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, how do you see the role of cloud engineering changing as AI becomes more embedded in operations?
I do think not only cloud, but the whole IT engineer is gonna be handling agents. So talking to agents, I usually have a way here. We have ACE, right? With ACE, we are able to open multiple sessions of ACE at the same time. So you can open a session to debug something. You can open a session to check something for him. You can open a session to review the security bar, right? I think that's the future, right? Even if you have one engineer working with multiple companies even, right? So have one session for that company, one session for another company, and always managing agents, right? Guiding or open tickets for agents. But as the clients interact with the agents, you have the engineers also interact with them and guiding them to do their actual work, right? With that, the engineers doesn't even need, maybe they don't even need access to the environments anymore because the agents, they're actually doing that and reporting them back to the engineers.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
question is how much time in order to get there? But I do think that that's the
That's the eventuality. And talk about eventualities. 5 years from now, what will people laugh about when they look back at how cloud ops teams work in 2025 and 2026? What will they laugh about?
kind of laugh on how we used to build scripts by hand, how so many manual steps were needed to do something. In the same way that, data center was created 20 years ago, right? You have to turn on a physical server, buy a server, expensive server to run a script there, right? That's funny. So the same thing creates infrastructure as a code manually, run it, wait for the script to run, see if there is an error, go back and forth with that. That's gonna be pretty funny.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that does make sense as far as the manual, how much manual stuff that we're doing now, right?
Yeah, we're still doing it now, but already, moving from that, from AI, a lot of process still.
Thiago, how can people connect with you and EZOps Cloud?
Sure. Our website, EZOps.cloud. We are one of the biggest Upwork agency also, a lot of amazing feedback from our clients there, and I'm also now in Amazon. I just published first book, Cloud and DevOps Engineer,
Awesome.
technical book. I do feel that over time, people are going to forget how to do things manual and they're going to need it, you know? So hopefully this book's going to be used in a couple of years a lot from people that forgot to do things manually.
Oh, excellent. So thanks for giving us that and congratulations on the new publication in Amazon.
Thank you. Thank you for
Nice
having me.
having you, Thiago Maior. Thanks for joining the Argosy podcast today. It was wonderful having you.